We had a very bad storm with a tornado that went nearby, and everything survived fine except my greenhouse, which I'm looking at outside my studio window. And I'm going to go out now and see if I can revive it and all of the little plants that I put inside of it, because it's supposed to be cold tonight, so it was full of plants. Oh dear. Oh dear, dear, dear. I don't think anything's broken though. That's good. I think my zinnias won't make it. Well, I'm inside the greenhouse and I have kind of put it all back together, but I've got lots of broken spots. That one's not too bad. That one sheared all the way off. That one sheared all the way off. And the plastic is ripped open over there. So that's where it pulled it because of that. So not the best, not the best. Might have to get another one. My daughter and I were hiding in the bathroom during the worst of that storm. I don't know where the tornado was, how close it was. I haven't hidden from a tornado since I was a child. It's still pretty windy out there, as you can probably hear. I had a lot of plants that got very disturbed, and I lost a lot of zinnias and all of my basil starts, which is very sad. But we'll start again. Sometimes during big windstorms, unexpected things get blown into your yard. If you live near the coast, you might get something like this. It's a crab pot. Now I see another one over there around that corner. I'm assuming this came from there in the farm next door. So we'll see if we can get it back over there. We got no use for a crab pot. This lovely flowering tree has a lot of the lichen in our yard. Also has beautiful blooms. Not really sure what that is. Anyway, but we lost some branches in the recent storm we had. And here they are. But I'm going to get a lot more beautiful lichen off of that. I have a huge bag of lichen right now. This will add to the collection. When I do some natural dyeing again, I want to get a really deep color. I think I can fit one more rolag in there, but I have to make it first, so let's do that. Well, there it is, such as it is. One down, one to go. Got a new bobbin on the wheel. I hope that this one doesn't take me months to finish. Oh my goodness, that took forever. And while I was looking for a new bobbin, I found some sock yarn from previous socks that I've made, and I am making a pair of socks. You may remember them from long ago, and I'm going to need a little extra to do the toes. Let me remind you about them. All right, now for you knitters out there who knit socks, you may remember that I was using this yarn and I finished a pair of socks. I really like them. I find knitted wool socks just to be wonderful. These are actually, I think, 75% wool, 25% acrylic. That's what sock yarn usually is. They seem to last forever. They look so good. Anyway, I did this pair first, this pair second, and you see I always have a little bit left over. Well, then I did this pair, and I had a good bit left over, and I thought I should be able to make some little low, without so much of the ankle, just little anklet socks, low socks. I don't think I'm going to have enough to get to the end of the toe, and so I'm going to have to use one or both of these. I might make one in this one and one in this one on the toe. I just wear them around the house. I really don't ever wear them out, so it doesn't matter what they look like to me. And I thought I would take a minute to show you again how to do 2 socks at one time on a circular needle. I know I have friends who don't ever use any circular needles because they find it confusing. I have other friends who will use them for straight stitching but not for stitching in the round because they find that confusing. And then I have others who are like, I could never do 2 socks at one time. And so I think that I'll take a minute to just let you know how I look at it when I do this. And I want you to look at how it's set up right now, okay? 2 socks, they're nice and flat, and my needle, here's one end, and it goes into the front side, the side toward me of this sock, and then across to this one, and then it loops around and goes back into the back of that sock, and into the back of that sock, and comes out this way. And really, when I'm knitting a pair of socks like this, I think this is the second pair I've done like this, because I hate the second sock syndrome you get when you do them separately. Anyway, I think of trying to keep the socks kind of stationary in my mind. They stay in this position, and it's the needles that move around, kind of just in a circle, okay? And I'll show you that in a minute so that you can understand what I'm saying. I realize I'm kind of starting at the end of a project, and it may be that the thing you struggle with the most if you use this kind of needle arrangement would be starting actually casting on, but that happened many months ago, and I may do that another time. And I think I still struggle with that, and sometimes I have to take the socks off and turn them around to get them exactly how I want it. But I do want you to see that we have here this live yarn on the bottom of this sock, and this live yarn in this location at the bottom of this sock, and that's where you want them to be. And then the first thing you're going to do is, this is your needle that your working stitches will be on, and so you want to get them all the way on the needle. Now, I had other circular needles. They were wooden and bamboo. I loved them, but they snapped off, and so when I went to replace them, my good friend Pam at my local fiber store recommended I get these, and these are absolutely wonderful. They do slide onto the needle easier. I really like that. Now, so here is your live yarn, and you're gonna need as much as you can get over here comfortably, so you're gonna want to pull this. So just think of this cable as just, it's a loop that goes around with these 2 ends, and you can pull it however you want it. Now, you do want to keep your stitches. If you don't want to end up with a big old gap running down here, you're going to need to keep your stitches close. And so I'm going to knit just this row here, and then I'll slow it down again. Okay. Okay. Now you'll see that I also have markers in these socks. I will tell you that the red marker marks the back of the heel. Okay. This one also has a red one. And then the other two markers, the blue and the yellow, were where I was doing decreases and stuff up here at the heel. But and I may not need them now. I really do want to know where the back of the heel is specifically. But it's better to, I used to not bother with markers, but it's better to have markers and not need them than to realize that you do need them and you don't have them. Okay, so now you see how the loop goes now. It's still same loop around both socks, but now my needles are here in the middle. And so the next section of the 4 that I'm going to do is this right here. I have these socks generally divided in half. I'm sure it's not entirely accurate, and I don't know that it really matters where the split is here. But yeah, I think it could be anywhere at this point. I'm just knitting the foot on the way down. So I'm going to put the work onto this needle. And you see here's my live yarn, so I can pass these stitches onto here. It's important to remember that you're passing the stitches on the individual socks. I'm not passing these stitches to here, I'm passing them to here, okay? And then I'm going to shorten that. Now, it is kind of fun to pull the cable. All right, now this one's nice and long. And now I'll knit this, and then we'll slow it back down again. Okay, so now I've done that one, and now I'm going to adjust my cable. So now my socks are in exactly the same place. It's just my cable that's moved, and I like to think of it that way, as the socks it's kind of, they're the stationary, they're like 2 columns, and the cable is just running around. Okay, now I am going to flip it over so I can do the next 2. Okay. And this is the point where sometimes your 2 yarn balls can get, crossed, and if they get crossed too often, they'll be intertwined a bit. And so I do try to keep mine separate. I don't always lay it out like this. I usually do it on my lap, and these 2 are usually in my little yarn bag. But for the purposes of this, I thought I would have them out where you can see it. Let me get a little sip of tea. That's hot honey chai. All right, and now we're going to do the same thing again. And remember, this is the back side now, or the other side, I should just say the other side of the sock that I just did. Okay, and so I've got that on the needle. Now I'm going to pull this one. I'm not doing a very good job. Don't want to pull it off there. All right, whatever. There we go. Okay. All right. Now, once again, I've got my 2 needles in the middle. You see, it really is a very orderly, predictable kind of thing. It's not really confusing once you get it down without that one. There we go. I do love how tough sock yarn is. You can kind of shove it around this. All right, and now we're to the last one. The other side of the first sock. Okay, Now, because there is a little bit of strain on these stitches right here, I do occasionally just pull this out and do this, okay, because I don't want some kind of a seam looking affair there. And I do try to keep these stitches when I start them nice and tight so there's not a big gap. All right, so now we're back to square one, okay. Also, make sure that you don't get your cables crossed there, okay, like that. All right, well, I hope that helps for any of you who would really love to make socks, but you don't want to do it on double pointed needles. And I've done that, and that's no fun. Or if you've only ever used straight needles and you'd really like to try circulars, but you just don't really know how it works, just remember that if you're doing straight knitting, like you're making a shawl or a scarf, circular needles are no different from straight needles. You just go back and forth. It's just that the cable makes the needles much longer. Okay, does that make sense? So you basically have one long needle instead of two shorter ones. It's just a double-ended needle that is flexible, okay? And so it allows you to knit longer pieces, wider pieces on a circular needle if it's long enough. So, but it's really, really wonderful for doing anything that's in a tube, knitting in the round like these socks. Okay, here is a wonderful update on the new residence for the 2 puppy dogs coming. And this is the amazing work of volunteers. A man came and put up all this fencing, and he concreted in the corner posts and did T-posts. This is a gate we had, and he hung the gate. Wow. Yeah, and he put this on there. That's going to be nice and sturdy. And because we no longer have electricity to our barn, he even mounted a little light with a teeny solar panel on top of this corner post to give some light into there. And he ran the fencing all the way over to that barn entrance and blocked off that entrance so the dogs won't be able to get in there, which is a good thing. So it just looks wonderful. This will be plenty of space for 2 dogs, I think. And in the afternoon, they've got shade over here. And then when this pecan tree leaves out, they'll even have even more shade. This will be great. They've never, ever had their paws on grass or laid in the sun before. I wonder what they'll think. Adam made me homemade scones for breakfast. This is a cinnamon cranberry oatmeal scone, and the cranberries were soaked in amaretto before they were put into the scone. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.